Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's Better Way Thursday workshop. We are super excited to be here today. And I have got an awesome guest. We have worked so hard to find a time to get this together. So I'm so glad we are here today. I have Erika Grant, who is going to talk to us about communication and confidence, which we know is an issue that all of us have struggled with a little bit. And so I asked Erika to come specially because sometimes when we're moving into a new setting, we're not exactly sure, like, what are the norms of professional communication, things like that. And then we know we've all got issues with confidence. So this is going to be a great conversation. Erika, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself as part of your presentation and workshop. And so I'll just let you take it from here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Robin. I appreciate it. So excited to be here again. My name is Erika Grant, and I have worked in the tech space, specifically HR tech, for the last 5 years. And I stepped into the role knowing nothing about tech. I mean, I'd owned my own business before, and I've had several different other jobs in different industries, but this was new to me. So I was very nervous going in. Anyways, I've learned so much from the role that I've been in. But on top of that, um, I also, the reason why communication is such an important thing to me and why I'm so passionate about it, is that I'm actually a certified neurolinguistic programming coach, which is it really fuels my fire for communication and the importance of it and how communication can actually increase our confidence. Um, and yeah, I utilize that in some of the personal coaching that I do and the corporate trainings that I do. So I'm so excited to be able to bring kind of a touch of that to tech moms today. Awesome. So we can just dive right on in. Yeah, right. Let me get my screen shared here just a second. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and get into slideshow mode. Lovely. Is that looking okay, Robin? Fantastic. Thank you. So, communication and confidence today, specifically for our tech moms and Better Way Thursdays. So excited about this. Let's dive right in. What is confidence? The official definition is a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. And I want to key in on the word appreciation because it doesn't mean that your abilities or your qualities have to be perfect. There just has to be an appreciation for it. And this is part of the definition of confidence. In doing kind of some research to see what, the global World Wide Web has to tell us about our attributes of someone who is confident. These are just a couple that were listed and I found them interesting. So I thought I would share knowing your strengths and weaknesses well. I think that's a big one. You have a positive view of yourself. Sometimes this can be hard. It really can be. And I think it can ebb and flow, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. You set realistic expectations and goals. This is a big part of confidence because every time you achieve a goal, keep a promise to yourself, you are building your confidence one step at a time. And then you communicate assertively and can handle criticism well. Ooh, that one can be hard sometimes too, but I think it's such a big part of growth, and a big part of realizing that we are not perfect and we don't have to be perfect. So we can take that criticism and take it with a grain of salt. So again, kind of moving into some traits. I know that thinking about being confident, and sometimes we think that we might meet someone who's very confident and we look at them and we look at their how they behave and we sort of think about emulating them. And sometimes you might meet someone who's confident and then they like go way to one side of the pendulum and they're almost arrogant and cocky, and we don't want to go that direction. And confidence doesn't mean that you walk into a room and you think you're better than everyone else, but it means that you are comfortable with enough with yourself that you don't need to compete with everyone else in the room. And so, as we kind of think about emulating someone with confidence and stepping into and embodying being someone who's confident, I kind of want to, distill it down a little bit and look at some of the behavioral traits that we can start to really keep at the forefront of our minds. Maybe include this in some of your affirmations or journaling to really help yourself kind of bring some of this to the forefront. So when we're talking about confident behavior, so imagine you are heading into a new networking group. Maybe you're walking into a new class. Maybe you are going in for an interview and you want to exude that confidence. Maintaining appropriate eye contact, right? We don't need to be staring everybody down, but making sure that you are making that appropriate eye contact. This is something that I talk to my teenager a lot about because they have less opportunity than we had growing up to have that eye contact when you're meeting someone. So many things are done via text and email now. There's less face to face in many situations. So, acknowledging your areas for growth without shame. This is another one where we kind of just have to understand that guess what? We're all learning and we're all doing the best we can. And if you ever feel like you have it all figured out, you don't have it all figured out. So, believe me, learning and growing and acknowledging those areas for growth are important, specifically in an interview situation. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a minute. Using purposeful gestures and open body language. Okay, if you head into a networking situation, an interview, anything, and you are cross legs, which you guys can't see right now, and I'm arms folded and I'm over here with my shoulders up in the corner, this is not confidence. This is closed off and unsure and uncomfortable, right? So we want to present ourselves in a very confident manner. Maybe you've heard in some other confidence presentations talking about like practicing a power pose before you go into a specific situation, helping you just really embody that confidence and breathing that inside of you. So purposeful gestures, right? Again, understanding your strengths without downplaying them. So many times, I think, especially as women, we want to just exude that humility. And so sometimes we'll try to not overpower a conversation or overpower someone else with our experience or our expertise somewhere. So I think being able to express our strengths and understand them and realize that they are a superpower, not necessarily a deterrent to something. So I thought that was a really interesting one. Taking up appropriate physical space rather than minimizing themselves. This kind of goes back to the open body language, right? Making sure that we own our space. If there's this group of people talking, don't let yourself get closed out of the circle. Take up the space, be there, be present, be, be, know that you are enough to be in that space, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's critical. Making decisions aligned with your true self. This one actually caught me slightly off guard when I read this, but I think it's so, so important because a confident person is not leading their life based upon the expectations of others. They are aware of what their needs are, they know what they need, and they are making moves in this world along that path. And to me, that's beautiful confidence. Beautiful. Last but not least, kind of what I just said, don't try to fit others' expectations. Understanding that, from a boss or something like that, they're going to have expectations for your work, but that's different than an expectation of your person. So being true to yourself, living your truth, and not changing your life or who you are to others' expectations is confidence. Think about some of the women you look up to. Think about what they do and say. I think it's pretty impressive. Robin, did you have something?
Yeah, can I just ask a quick question? I love this list. First of all, I love your last slide where you talked about what confidence is and what it is not, because I think a lot of people get confused and they think, well, I can only be confident if I'm really, really great, right? And if I am a high achiever and have all this background and all this wonderful accolades and things like that. We can be confident at every stage of our lives, right? No matter where we are, no matter what we've already done, no matter what we're looking forward to do. So I love that. But then I love this slide so much that you're actually giving us like specific skills. What does confidence look like in an individual? So the question I have for you is, as we're so many of our tech moms are moving forward into unknown areas, they're moving into a new industry, they're coming back to work after a break, lots of situations where it's natural to feel a little bit of insecurity. How can we practice some of these behavioral traits? Can you give us some settings or ideas where we can practice doing some of these things? So we know that practice will help actually increase our confidence. How can we practice some of these things?
Absolutely. And Robin, I love that segue. Thank you. Can you give me two more slides and we'll be there? She's reading my mind. I love it. Awesome. Okay, next up, we've kind of talked about some behaviors. Let's talk about the communication piece, right? This is a big piece. So, expressing your opinions clearly without excessive qualifiers. And we're going to talk about some specific examples about this in just a second. Accept compliments gracefully with a simple thank you or thank you, I appreciate that, instead of, oh, no, no, right? Own it. This is you. This is what you've done. This is who you are. Own it. I think it's just, we've got to learn how to do that as women. This is a huge one, especially in, again, the interview process where maybe you're moving into something where you are not an expert. I mean, I went from owning my own business, running my own business for 7 years, being an expert in that, going into this tech role, being like, I don't know, but here's my resume. I don't even know, but we'll figure it out, you know? Um, there were several questions that I was asked in my interview. Do you know how to use this program? Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do this? The simple response was, that is not something that I'm currently familiar with, but I'm very interested in learning more about that, or I would love to add knowing about that program to my skill set. So it's okay to say you don't know, but no, but just the employer or whomever knowing that you have the drive to learn and grow your skill set and really implement whatever they want you to know for that role, huge. In and of itself, that's handled. So don't be afraid to say you don't know or you're unsure. I have to say that to customers every day. I don't know the answer to that, but let me find the answer and I'll be sure to get back to you. You can't be expected to know everything all the time. It's okay. Ask questions without apologizing for needing clarification. I'm so sorry. Can you explain that better? I'm not sure I'm following what you're saying. Could you add a little extra detail? Okay, so a little bit different. Everyone communicates in a different line. This is a huge thing that I teach organizations about, is that everyone has their very own communication patterns. They have their very own way of receiving communication and giving communication. So if someone's speaking to you in a specific way that doesn't resonate for you, it's okay to ask for them to say it differently. So don't feel like you need to apologize for that. Disagreeing respectfully when necessary. This is important, right? This kind of comes along with company culture and just kind of understanding like where it's okay to disagree, who it's okay to respectfully disagree with, and the right timing for that. You may not want to disagree with someone in the middle of a large company meeting, but perhaps afterwards have a side chat with them about your differing opinion. And, with that being said, don't be afraid to actually speak up, mastering the balance between being assertive and being collaborative. I've worked with many people that are, they almost want to like jam their opinion down your throat rather than being collaborative and saying, hey, have we ever thought about this? Or, hey, I had this thought. What do you guys think about this approach? So, a couple different ways to handle that. This is one I kind of just touched on. Develop techniques for speaking up in meetings and handling being interrupted. I have noticed the older I get, the more irritated I get with being interrupted. Go figure. So I've had to learn how to, I've had to learn how to develop some new techniques to handle that with just a little bit more patience. So a couple of things with confidence communication patterns. Robin, did you have anything you wanted to mention or say here?
I just want to say amen to all of this. I love it. I love all the different, there's so many different parts of confidence that we don't necessarily think about as being super relevant to everything you're saying. So I'm just eating this up.
Good, good, good. Okay, now we talked about the communication patterns and how everyone kind of, receives communication differently, but also how we speak communication differently, which again exudes our confidence differently. So these are a couple things that you can actually put into practice. So we're going to remove minimizing words from our language. Well, I just kind of wanted to know a little bit more about the job. Excessive apologizing. I'm so sorry to bother you again. Oh, I'm sorry for emailing you again. I say sorry so much. I think we all do. I'm trying to cut it. I'm trying to. Permission phrases. I was wondering if. Uncertainty qualifiers. I might be wrong, but. So this is what we're going to replace it with, right? So here's our contrast. So instead of just or kind of, statements like, I recommend we. instead of, I think maybe we should, right? And I'm adding some intonation to these, but you can see the difference. You can see the difference, hear the difference. Clear requests. Please review this by Tuesday versus just when you get a chance. Ownership language. I disagree versus I might be wrong, but we kind of talked about that one. So these are some good examples of how you can shift some of what you're saying into more confidence, because I think when we speak our confidence, it just starts to flow through us as well. So this is why I specifically wanted to bring up some of the language adjustments. Oh, one more. Sorry, active voice. I completed the project versus the project was completed. This is super nuanced, super nuanced. And some people might think that it feels braggy. But to be honest with you, if you completed a project, own it. Own it. Be proud of it. Put that as part of your personal recognition. Awesome.
Can I hop in on that apologizing one?
Yes.
This is something that comes up so much. I've done lots of research on women's leadership, women's confidence, different things like this. And this apologizing is something that's really systemic. It's part of our socialization. Um, but I wonder sometimes if there's been too much of a backlash. Like I wonder if some people feel like, oh, I can never apologize. And I love to think about the difference for my own self of I think there is a tendency whenever we're feeling uncomfortable, we want to apologize, right? And so most of the time we don't need to do it, but if we really did do something wrong, it's okay to apologize, right? So I don't want us to think like if I really was 40 minutes late for a meeting, I could say, sorry, I was late. Let's move forward, whatever. And so there are situations where it's okay to apologize. But some of the other language that I've seen is thanks for your patience in getting this. For instance, if someone's asked me for something and it took me a week to get back to them, I'm not going to apologize because they didn't give me a deadline. There wasn't anything that I did wrong, but I can still recognize it has been a week since you asked me for this. So thanks for your patience as I'm getting to this, and I appreciate this, right? So there are some different ways we can do it. So it's okay to apologize if we did something wrong, but we don't need to apologize if we didn't do anything wrong, right? And recognizing that sometimes you can have an uncomfortable conversation when you still didn't do anything wrong. And we want to apologize because it's uncomfortable, but we shouldn't because we didn't do anything wrong. So figuring that out like can be a little bit nuanced, right? But
Yes.
I love raising this conversation and inviting us to just think about it a little bit more. I think so much of deliberate communication is just looking at it, right? And
Mhm.
making some decisions instead of just going with what we've always done in the past. So I love these really specific examples you're giving us here.
Yeah, and I appreciate that so much, Robin. That adds so much value. It's something that I've learned as an adult and something that I really try to impress even upon my daughter. Well, she'll apologize for something I'm like, well, I don't think you need to say sorry. You didn't do anything wrong, but thank you for recognizing that, whatever. Or my significant other calls me out on it. He's like, he'll kind of call me out on my excessive apologizing, just to remind me that it's okay. Like I don't need it. So thank you for that. Thank you. Okay, this is going to be a little bit more starting to dive into more practice, right? How can we actually like embody this, right? So viewing mistakes as learning opportunities rather than failures. Again, especially in the scenario for tech moms where you guys might be stepping into something brand new. Look at every single job opportunity as how can I get in here? How can I learn as much as I can? And you can only learn through, I mean, not only, but most of the time we learn through making mistakes, right? Okay, so I learned that that's the way I don't want to do it. I'm going to do it a different way this time. But really just viewing it that way and making sure that you're having some self-talk about that so that you're really like anchoring that into your mind that it really is just learning. If any employer ever expects you to never make a mistake ever, you're probably in the wrong place. They are off in left field because it's just going to happen. It really is. Setting healthy boundaries and respecting others' boundaries. So, example of this, I used to let people walk all over my calendar. Oh, you want a meeting then? Let me move this other thing. Oh, you wanted, oh, okay, I'll just shift my lunch. And then I wouldn't even end up with a lunch, which then, makes me cranky for my afternoon meetings. So, just making sure that you're setting healthy boundaries. Again, that's part of confidence. It really is because you're respecting your own time. which is huge. Celebrating others' successes without feeling diminished. This goes back to that not needing to compete with other people. All ships rise with the tide. And I think, especially, and I've seen this camaraderie in the Tech Moms group, is that you guys all celebrate each other. And if we can all continue those practices into every workplace and every scenario that we go, we will absolutely just raise the bar because really there is room for everyone to succeed in every scenario. Robin.
Can I have yeah, I love this one so much, and it is because it is still so hard for me, right? And I've been working for a long time. I've had some great opportunities, but sometimes I get into this scarcity mindset and I see, "Oh, that person just did something that I was gonna do, and now I can't do it,"
Mhm.
right? Which I remind myself all the time, and I remind everybody I'm talking to whenever we get into this, there is enough work for all of us to do. There is enough opportunity, there is enough recognition. And so a lot of it comes with banishing that scarcity mindset and adopting an abundance mindset. And it doesn't come naturally. It's not easy because as women, we're often taught to like compete against each other and things like that. And so I want to recognize and validate that you might have that little feeling of jealousy or scarcity or whatever come into your mind or into your heart when you see someone else succeed. And so like don't beat yourself up about it. It's natural. It's what we've been taught to do. But when you feel it, recognize it for what it is. It's part of our culture telling us that we're not enough. We can banish that. We can and say, we can say that's not for me. That's what I've been taught, but that's not what I believe. And so if we feel that, just banish it, move forward, don't beat yourself up, and then just say, there is enough for all of us to do. There is an abundance of work, opportunity, accolades, recognition, love, support. And then that kind of frees us up to say, oh yeah, I'm going to celebrate with that person. When we get to our graduations every year, with the tech moms, we always start with the scarcity. No, no, no. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? We
Uh,
start with that quote because some women get up and they give these amazing websites, and then other women are like, "My website's not as good. I shouldn't really, whatever." And we're like, "Don't compare. We're here to celebrate each other." So this is such a beautiful reminder that we can celebrate all of our successes, and that doesn't make us any less. I love it so much.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that it's not coming for you either. The analogy that I love to use, I always use nature as my analogies, but think about your flower bed at home. You have two tulip bulbs right next to each other. They're in the same environment. They're getting the same amount of moisture, the same soil, the same sunshine, and one is going to bloom before the other. They don't all bloom at the same time, and it's one of those things where you just have to understand that the universe has a plan for you and your time will come. So why not celebrate the hell out of everyone else along the way, right? Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. This one is dear to my heart, and I hope that it's dear to this group too. Taking calculated risks and trying new things. You're already doing that. You're already doing that. That you've even, dove into this world. You're trying new things, and you'll probably feel that same thing when you are stepping into a new role or, leaving one company for another or even putting in for a promotion where you're already at. Like it's okay to take a risk. And if it doesn't turn out the way you want it to, again, it's a learning opportunity, right? Where can you grow? How could you have done better in the interview? What other skills do you need to acquire? But yeah, don't be afraid to take risks. Accepting feedback without becoming defensive. Oh, that can be a tough one. It can be really tough. Um, I think a lot of times for me personally, I will accept the feedback outwardly very well and very graciously. And as soon as the meeting is over, I'm like, "Rrr," on the inside, right? I'm feeling this like, gosh dang it. I didn't, I didn't do good enough, or they're off base. They're not looking at the full picture or whatever. But again, this is kind of looking at the difference between thoughts and feelings, right? There's two different things. So when I allow myself to simmer just a little bit, I can generally come back to the fact that, you know what, I do need to take that feedback. This is, the way that this organization wants me to do this. So even though I've shared my thoughts and my opinions, they've listened to them, in great detail, but they still would like me to go this direction. Okay, fine. I will do that. Robin.
Well, and I love what you said after you allow yourself to simmer a little bit. I find this because I feel this too, right? When we're high achieving people and we're used to a lot of success and a lot of praise, and then you do get some negative feedback, you're like, what? It's just hard. We don't even know what to do with it. And I have found so much that I'm okay in the moment. I'll be like, whatever, that was stupid. They're crazy or whatever. And then I will go the next day and just revisit it. And even giving myself that little space of time for my emotions. I love what you said. Let my emotions separate out of it and then go back. So if you decide if you're feeling some negative feedback and feeling defensive about it, do whatever in the moment, but don't dismiss it, right? Come back to it later. And you might get some feedback that's wrong, right? That's okay.
Yeah.
But give
Yeah.
yourself a little bit of time to recognize what is it that I can learn from this experience now that my emotions, I've had a little time to breathe with it, and then I come back, what can I learn here? So I love about giving ourselves a little bit of time and space with that.
Yeah, that self-awareness is key. Don't seek constant external validation. This has been like a huge mantra for me over the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It's actually probably the whole premise of my book. And it's something that I think is so important that many times, especially when we're stepping into something new, we are chasing those gold stars. We are chasing those atta girls. And that can become a vicious cycle in that, feeling excited or proud or validated is no longer sourced here because we're looking out at it looking for it externally so much. So we're going to talk about some practices about that in just a second. But this is
Hold
a big
on.
one. Oh,
Did you
yep.
say that you wrote a book?
Yes, I did.
Ah, that's amazing. Are you going to talk about that later?
I was not planning on it, no.
Uh, tell it just really quickly. Just tell us about your book. That's incredible. What is your book about?
Oh my gosh, you're so cute. So it's called The Renewal of You. It's essentially about um, finding the strength and courage to live the life that you were meant to live outside of the expectations of others, because we have a tendency to get lost in, culture, motherhood, whatever, societal expectations, you name it. So it's really just a beautiful journey, and there's even some interactive stuff in there about just peeling off the layers of all the things that we've piled on ourselves to try to be what everyone else wants us to be. So
I
there's the
love it.
nutshell version.
Oh, I can't wait to check that out. That's awesome. Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If someone's written a book, I have to give that a shout out. That's an incredible accomplishment.
You're so sweet.
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. But yes, the external validation piece. And then really, this is kind of like the all-encompassing statement right here, right? Being comfortable with being imperfect while still trying to improve. And you know what? Being imperfect, we will always be imperfect. You will never reach a stage of perfection. So, and that's not to say, oh, you'll never be perfect. We just never can be, because this whole entire experience, this human experience, is learning and growing and putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations so we can grow some more and learn some more and improve more. That's the whole journey. That's the whole fun of it. So just get comfortable in that. It's a good thing. All right, mindset shifts. Let's get into some of the real practices of it. So, this is kind of your mindset shift, and this is kind of tooled around stepping into a new opportunity, a new role. Maybe you've just been hired, right? So, on this top line here, obviously, some things we might think, oh, they're just doing me a favor by hiring me. Wrong. You bring valuable skills and perspectives based upon all of your life experience so far, all of the skills that you've gained in other roles in other industries so far. You're bringing valuable skills. Next, I should be grateful for any opportunity that I get, which I understand can be an easy mentality to have when you're moving into a new industry, because maybe you've been an expert in something else and now you're a newbie in something else, and you're a beginner and you're just like, oh, I just any job in tech I'd be fine with. Not necessarily, right? It's a mutually beneficial relationship. You're going to learn things from there that will be stepping stones to your next bigger opportunity potentially, and they're also gaining someone amazing. So mutually beneficial. Others are more qualified. Sure, they might be, but you offer a really unique experience no one has the same background as you. No one's lived your life. No one's had the same jobs as you. No one has the same brain or mind as you. So you bring a unique set of experiences to this role. This other big, huge one, and this goes along with that external validation. I need to prove that I belong here. You have the skills enough to apply for the job, so you automatically already deserve to be there. So if they offer you the job, you deserve to be there. They chose you, they wanted you. It's not a favor, it's not a gimme. So just remind yourself of that. It's a big deal. So think about those things with mindset shifts, right? Again, it's kind of going into that self-worth, which brings me to my next slide about owning your worth and your value. So this is some of the practical applications, again, that I said, Robin, give me 3 slides, but it was more like 5, and here we are. So recognize that career transitions and breaks in your work journey add unique perspectives and transferable skills. Did I ever think that my experience in owning and running my a salon and day spa for 7 years would transfer to my tech job? No, they absolutely have, though. I have my own team now, my customer relationship skills, even my accounting experience from running that business is helping with a lot of the things that I'm helping our customers with. So who knew? Like that seems like two totally different industries, but they absolutely apply. So please just remember that even if you took a break, maybe you stayed home and had kids for 10 years, managing a household is project management times probably like 20. So please keep that in the forefront of your mind. Learning to articulate your past experiences, including any non-traditional work, as a valuable asset. And I sort of just alluded to one. The fact that you are managing a calendar or tasks or chores or appointments for 6 kids or whatever, 2 kids, is project management. Talk about what you learned while you were home, like the what you learned to value, what you discovered in your own personal needs and how you like to receive feedback. Or there's so many different ways that you can do this. And I really want people to understand that you can key in on that. It doesn't just have to be, well, I did, I can type 72 words per minute and I know Word and Excel. Like this is all of your experiences, everything. And then practicing the art of confident self-advocacy without apologizing or minimizing achievements. Again, we get nervous to be braggy. And it's one of those things where you can actually like present yourself, self-advocate for your skill set without, well, I know I probably could be farther along in my career if I hadn't have taken that break or if I hadn't have left the industry and went to something else for a little while. But like it's all learning and growing. Every path that you choose in your life is leading you to understand something else, is leading you to gain other tools in your tool belt for something else. It's a beautiful design, and just recognizing, learning, and practicing. These are big things that I think as we put these into daily practice is really, really, really important. But the question is with the daily practice, right? What in the world do we do with that? So this is what I like to call a value recognition practice. Now, I'm telling you right here, this is going to feel a little bit uncomfortable for people because then it toes that line again of being braggy, but this is for yourself, okay? I actually coach inside of this amazing woman's multi-million dollar business. She keeps an email file folder of kind of like testimonials from her clients reminding her how much they love her program and how much they love everything. And when she's having a down day, she goes and reads those. And I mean, this is an amazing practice. Robin, do you want to say something before I move on?
I was just going to say, I do that too. And I recommend that everybody does it. Like I tell my tech moms all the time, just put a kudos folder on your desktop when you get a great email, when someone tells you did a good job, even if it ever happens miraculously, one of your kids is like, "Hey mom, you did a really good job with that." That probably will never happen. But lots of times, so having that kudos folder, I recommend it for everyone. It is so important.
It really is. And honestly, because there's going to be days where you're like, oh, I sucked at that today. And so it's just nice to kind of have those, but kind of on a practical focus here, keeping a value log, okay, which documents problems you've solved, whether that's in your personal life or your work life. Positive feedback you received. Mom, this dinner was delicious. Or, hey, Erica, you did a really great job on that spreadsheet. Impacts that your efforts have made. If you helped, get a deal across the line, or you helped your team reach a goal, teams or projects you've improved, skills you've mastered, right? Could be something as simple as Canva. I figured out how to make a resume on Canva or something, right? Congratulate yourself on that. And then regularly audit your unique strengths. Again, this goes back to understanding like every aspect of your life experience gives you a unique strength. It gives you something. Maybe you went through something really difficult in life and therefore you have so much empathy, right? So, professional expertise, life experiences, cross functional knowledge, and your relationship building abilities. Relationship building abilities is going to be something that is critical in so many roles, whether you're customer facing or just working with another team. So be sure to hone in on those as well. The biggest thing that I run into with people who struggle with confidence is imposter syndrome. And just doing a quick check on time, Robin, I'll try to keep us moving right along. Are we okay? Okay. Imposter syndrome is a big one. And a couple quick things, we'll get through this list quick, that sort of are indicators of imposter syndrome or that can feed imposter syndrome are things like this: refusing to accept or internalize positive feedback. Again, no, 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 no. Just say, I received that. Thank you. Avoiding challenges that could provide growth. Perfectionism, creating unrealistic standards, discounting success as just luck or timing. Probably not, sis. I think it's your time to shine. Constantly moving your own goalposts. Stop setting, like, let your goals be your goals, achieve it, then set a new one. Don't keep moving it higher without making those other milestones. Comparing your behind the scenes to others' highlight reels. How many times have we heard this, especially in recent years? This has got to stop. You have no idea what anyone else's story is, and they don't know yours either. So let's keep that one off the table completely. And then deep-rooted beliefs about worthiness. This can be a little bit of a struggle and can be really personal, but it is something that I see affect people a lot in their confidence. And one of the biggest things, overarching themes about imposter syndrome is letting the wrong things define you. And I really want to hone in on this for a minute because this is where I think a lot of our deep-rooted confidence issues come from. So, kind of the big question is when we have imposter syndrome is, who are you? Who actually are you? And this is kind of a really big and deep rabbit hole question, but kind of on the surface. And Robin, I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute because when I introduced myself today, I gave a very brief introduction. But Robin, if you were standing up in front of a group of 20 women who you've never met before, and I said, Robin, please introduce yourself, what would you say?
If it were in a professional setting, I would say, my name is Robin Scribner. I'm a co founder of Tech Moms, which is a workforce development program that helps women transition into better careers. And I love to help women transform their lives. I would say something like that. So, talk a little bit about what I've done and also attach a value to it or some sort of indication that, like, where my passion and my emotions tie into that professional work that I do. That's kind of
Perfect.
how I'd say in front of a group.
And if you were just joining a women's circle and it wasn't a professional setting, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, I would just say my name is Robin.
Nothing else?
I
Tell us a little
might.
bit about yourself.
Oh, I'd say I have 6 kids. I love to play volleyball. I'm a singer. Maybe that. Maybe those
Love it.
things. Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be sort of a perspective shift for some of you, likely. So a lot of times when in these scenarios, right, we get things like this. I'm a 44-year-old single mother from Salt Lake. I was born and raised in Utah. I'm an avid outdoor junkie and I'm obsessed with animals. Okay. That's a fine introduction. That's just fine. Another introduction example. I am a strong-willed, kind-hearted woman who's a hippie at heart and a recovering people pleaser. I champion honesty and kindness above all else, and I believe that we get what we give in this life. Here's another introduction. I was born to middle class parents who both worked outside the home and had an unhealthy relationship that ended in divorce. I was raised in a very conservative religion that dictated most of my decisions as a child. That's probably not the introduction you're going to hear, but guess what's lying under the surface of who I am defining myself as? And this doesn't even go into everything else that's under my surface. Maybe I struggled with substance abuse. Maybe I've, been in several unhealthy relationships. All these things that I'm allowing my confidence and my worth to be tied to under the surface is there. This top one is generally the intro style you're going to hear. This intro you probably won't hear much of, but this tells you more of who I actually am at my core. So when you think about who you like, what you're presenting, I'm not telling you to step into your new office and say, I was born to middle class parents. I'm not saying that. But think about who you resonate as or what your core values are that you are thinking about in your mind when you let these things define who you are. Because if you know your backstory and there's things that you might be somewhat, I don't know if I want to say ashamed of, but things that you feel like are a demerit on your story, that's something that, you definitely want to work through. So I really encourage people to think about looking at your story and your confidence and your life like you're driving. And what I mean by that is that 90%, 97% of the time, your attention should be on where you are headed and what is directly around you. Being present on focus on what's ahead, meaning think about who you are right now. This is not what you did in your past. This is not who you were 10 years ago when you were a mess. This is you now, growing, thriving, striving, stepping into something new. Own that version of you. And just let 3% of your time, like 3% of your focus, be on your outside and rearview mirrors because that's what's behind you. We learn from it, but we've moved past it and we are cruising right ahead into the future.
So the purpose of like going through that introduction thing was saying that the way so many of us think about ourselves is what's feeding our imposter syndrome. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, because we
Okay.
might, in a situation where we're introducing ourselves, diminish ourselves because of what we might think about ourselves and our worth. And it's interesting to see what drives that. And if you've ever noticed this in a situation, the very first person, if you're going around a room, the very first person that introduces themselves usually sets the template for the intro. If one person starts with, this is where I live, this is how many kids I have, this is what I'm interested in, everyone else will follow that same thing. And if they don't, I don't have kids, but and it's the most interesting thing that then all of a sudden, this is the standard that we're introducing ourselves by. So even in that scenario alone, maybe you're someone who's been trying to have children forever, and in that moment, you're like, yeah, I don't have kids. I don't have kids, and it doesn't need to be that. And that's the whole purpose of understanding, like, how do you define yourself? Tap into that worth and step into that. You don't need to even talk about your children if you don't want to in your intro. Tell people what you're passionate about. Tell them why you're excited you're here. Tell them that 2 weeks ago you had purple hair and now it's blonde. I mean, I don't know, right?
I love it. I love it.
Awesome. So yes, this is a really cool analogy. But really what it kind of drives back to is the biggest thing is what matters the most is here and now. So in embodying confidence and embodying your worth, look at where you are at right now. You are stepping into new things. You are challenging and growing yourself. You are bettering your life, maybe not only just for yourself, but for your whole family and for generations to come. So I really, really encourage you to just step into that confidence. Think about those daily practices. Really turn inward. Don't look at the external for a validation. Really turn inward and just keep all of that worth and know what you are worth coming from the inside. Source it from here because you ladies are amazing and you are strong. And I'm certainly here cheering you on.
I love that so much. So what I wanted to share a different perspective that ties along with what you were saying about the imposter syndrome, because I think all the things that you shared are so much of what feeds it, right? And why we feel it and how we nurture it and make it be like a debilitating thing for us and how we allow it to hold us back. Um, but that final thing that you said, I love that so much because you're recognizing that so many of us might be feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome because we are taking a new step, right? Because we're working hard, moving into something new, having courage and bravery to do something hard. And so sometimes when I'm talking to women about imposter syndrome, I say, if you're recognizing it, if you're feeling it, know that that is happening because you are doing something hard,
Hmm.
because you are growing, because you are moving forward. So don't embrace it, right? Don't believe it, but recognize if you're never feeling imposter syndrome, it's probably because you're stagnant, right? And
Exactly.
because you're getting a little too comfortable. And so I encourage women sometimes to say, take it for what it is. All the things that you said about what feeds it, we don't want to embrace any of those, but embrace the fact that I'm feeling this because I'm growing. So I'm going to say no to the things that diminish my confidence, make me feel like I'm not good enough, but say yes to the fact that I'm feeling this because I'm moving forward. So I love that whole idea. So
Good.
perfect.
I have one other quote that I would love to just share real quick, if that's okay.
Uh-huh.
For those of you that may have read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, it was a life-changing book for me. But one of her probably most well-known quotes in that book is every time you're given a choice between disappointing someone else and disappointing yourself, your duty is to disappoint that someone else. Your job throughout your entire life is to disappoint as many people as it takes to avoid disappointing yourself. And I know that this can sound a little harsh at first read or first glance, but when I think about how many choices many of us have made in our lives to appease someone else when really we felt the pull to go a different direction, that it's taken us on a path that's maybe led us to where we don't really want to be. And even if, a friend tries to get you a job somewhere and it doesn't feel right to you and you're going to disappoint them by turning it down, but you really want this other job, it's okay. Do what feels right to you in that moment. And again, as long as you continue to follow your own compass and honor your own worth, again, that confidence is going to skyrocket, and your imposter syndrome, whether it's there or not, because what's that saying? The only thing that's on the other side of fear is growth, or something like that.
Something like
Um,
that.
it that resonates so deeply for me. And the moment that I read this quote in the book, I immediately went into my daughter's room and I just said, "Do you understand that if you choose to be whatever, and I want you to be something else, it doesn't matter. Like, do what makes sense for you, like follow your path." And I'm so proud of all of these women for stepping into something new and being courageous and confident enough to do that and follow their path. And that's just kind of the quote that I wanted to leave you with.
That is so powerful. And it's powerful because it is shocking, right? It goes against what we think, what we've always been taught, what we think is the right thing to do, right? We have to keep everybody else happy. I am also a recovering people pleaser. I don't know if I'm recovered yet. I'm still pretty much in it. I'm very much a pleaser. But I love this idea. And even taking this because I think on its very merits right here, this quote is really powerful because at the end, I will give a favorite quote from a quote from my favorite movie, The Holiday, that great Christmas movie, which is
Yes.
you're supposed to be the leading lady in your own life, right?
Yes.
When it all comes down to it, we owe ourselves more than we owe anybody else, right? And we have to. But when we are true to ourselves and we take the pathway that we know feels right for us, how much better equipped are we going to be to make the lives of other people around us better, right? We can
Absolutely.
only give when we have something to give. And we only
Yes.
get that because we are taking care of ourselves. That's something that we do try to teach at Tech Moms, that you have to carve out time for yourself. You have to make sure that you are a priority in your own life. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to serve yourself or anybody else in any powerful
Absolutely.
way. I
Right.
love this so much.
Put your own oxygen mask on first, right?
Right? Absolutely. Erica, this has been such an incredible conversation. I was like drinking everything in the whole time you were talking, because not only did you give us some really great, like, kind of, um, life, like mind altering, mindset altering perspectives and things that really kind of maybe this like blow our minds a little bit, but also tons of really practical, tangible tips that we can take away and start working on right now and catch ourselves a little bit. And it's going to take some time to begin shifting. One of the things that really surprised me when I started working with so many of my tech moms was how ubiquitous the lack of confidence was. Almost every single woman that came into our program. And I have a gift that is genetic. I have a genetic gift for confidence that I got from my mom. It's really strange. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are like, why is she so confident? It was just a gift. I got it from my mom, right? But because I have not struggled like myself so much, and in certain areas I do, right? So it's not like I don't ever feel imposter syndrome. It's not like I don't ever feel not confident. But for the most part, it has not been like a real huge problem in my life. I have plenty of other problems, so it all evens out. But because of that, the like intense lack of confidence that so many of our tech moms feel when they come into our program was a big surprise to me, and it does help me recognize that our society like just beats women over the head, right? And they start doing it from the time we're little girls. You're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough. Don't be too much, don't take too much space. Like it's not surprising that we feel that, and it takes a lot of work for us to overcome it. And so I love the tools that you've given us today to start moving forward on that. And I have a couple of superpowers. One of my superpowers is that I can see qualities in women that they cannot see in themselves. And so I look at all of my tech moms and I'm like, how could you possibly think that you don't have anything to offer? Because I can see everything that you have. And so I play that role as much as I can when I'm talking to women as individuals. But I love that you've given us the tools to be our own cheerleaders, right? And to
Oh,
recognize I can see this in myself. I can begin to move forward. And one of my mantras is that confidence is a consequence of action, right? We
yes.
don't become confident by sitting around waiting for someone to tell us that we're amazing. We become confident as we try things, and sometimes we fail and sometimes we succeed. But just taking that action helps us grow in our confidence. So I love everything that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much for being a friend to tech moms and for giving us your advice. We're going to invite our women to reach out and connect with you on LinkedIn, find other ways. And will you tell me again the name of your book?
Oh, you're so cute. It's called The Renewal of You.
The Renewal of You. Wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for joining us. I know that you've learned a lot, and we'll see you next time on our next Better Way Thursday workshop.